Well, good afternoon again, Empowered Soul Network peeps. This is just a wonderful day. Great interview last hour. Got another amazing person, amazing service provider joining us today. Her name is Karen Ross. She is a hypnotherapist and coach, and she specializes in sports hypnosis. You guys know me, I love sports, so I'm so excited to kind of dig into that just a little bit. Great subject. Karen, welcome to Empowered Soul Network.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thanks so much for inviting me. And congratulations on this new group. Sounds
No,
like you've accomplished some pretty amazing things very, very quickly. Gathered a lot of great people together.
yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I know we were talking before. Karen is a former radio host in Chicago, so she knows the drill, been on the other side of the mic. It's so great to share with somebody who resonates and connects and has the affinity for this kind of work. So really appreciate it. Karen, let's get right into it. Tell us about the hypnotherapy. What inspired you to get into this work?
Well, let's see. How long did you said this would be about 3 hours, right? It
You could
could
do it 25 minutes.
it could take that long. No, I like to kind of joke and say that I think I have a portfolio career because I have done so many different things over the years. And I used to think that was a fault. And I now realize how valuable all that experience has been. And it has really helped me in working with people because I do have some perceptions of a variety of lifestyles and traumas and tribulations that people can experience. But going all the way back, my dad was a psychologist. And in fact, he used hypnosis in his practice. At one time, I thought I might follow in his footsteps, and then I kind of veered off in a different direction and got more into business, and now have kind of come full circle as I've come to the later part of my life. And as you mentioned, I had a radio show for a number of years here in Chicago, which I'm back in Chicago now. Also had a show in South Carolina for a couple of, no, not about a year there. And then I worked with my husband, who was a search consultant. He was what they called a headhunter, did retained search at very senior level positions. I learned a lot there. Believe me, I learned a lot about the corporate world, even though, excuse me, even though I wasn't working right in it. I certainly learned a lot about it in a lot of different positions. But after the radio work came to an end, I was at a real crossroads and I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. Coaching, personal coaching, was just becoming accepted
Right.
and popular to some degree. I hired a coach to help me figure out what in the world do I do next. She was the one who said, I think you'd make a great coach. I wasn't convinced, but when I got a lot of good feedback about that, I proceeded to do very expensive, very long-term training to become a certified coach. And then about 5 years ago was introduced to some programs that were based on hypnosis. And I thought, I think this is the missing piece for me. And I liked the fact that it helped put me in a position to assist people in changing a situation that they had been spending sometimes years trying to resolve, that we could do it fairly quickly. And have found that to be the case, found the results with people to be literally life transformational. And one of the certifications I got was focused on athletes and sports. And while I got a lot of information from that and used it with my clients, I didn't really focus that much on. Well, in the last year, I decided let's really kind of move in that direction and see what happens. And it has proven to be very, very meaningful. And I have really enjoyed how I've been able to help athletes at all levels. I mean, from high school to college grad. I have working with a college grad right now who's been recruited to a pro team, but then on up to elite sports. Have worked with a retired doctor who just wanted to improve his golf game. So,
Sure.
he's not trying to become a pro, but I can also work with pros. So I think that kind of is a thumbnail sketch of what I'm doing and how I got here.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's take a step into the basics for just a moment for people that are watching. I know from my experience in consulting and coaching in the personal development world is that there's a lot of concepts about hypnotherapy. There's outright fear of it because people don't want to, give over control of themselves to someone else. There's the television side of it, where somebody puts a group of people in hypnosis and then they do things at the click of a stand up and they walk around and they act crazy or whatever. And then, of course, there's the amazing, beautiful therapy side of it. So, what is hypnosis? What happens when somebody is in the care of a hypnotherapist?
Well, you make a very good point. And I have to say that some of the representations I've seen in TV, movies of how hypnosis is used are terrible. They're awful. They're awful. And hypnotherapy is one of the fastest, most effective processes to make change in one's life. And the way we do that is we access and use the power of the subconscious mind. And there doesn't have to be anything woo woo about it, weird about it. But what many people don't realize is that they basically have two minds. They've got a conscious mind, a subconscious mind. That conscious mind is the one that never shuts up. we hear it talking to us all the time. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And sometimes it's downright mean, let's face it. But it's the one that argues, analyzes, it double thinks, so on and so forth. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, doesn't do any of that. It's there, it has all the information that we need, everything we know about ourselves and what we've wanted to know over time is in our subconscious mind, and it's there to serve us. And it is the most powerful, the most creative instrument in the universe. And many people, I hesitate to say most, but many people just don't have any concept of the fact that they have that subconscious mind and they have the ability to draw on that power. So we do it in a number of ways. I know someone who is a very successful long-term hypnotherapist here in Chicago, who much of her work is what she might call conversational hypnosis. So somebody doesn't necessarily go into a trance, but then another side of that topic is that we forget or don't recognize how often we're in a trance anyway. You know, we walk into a store and we follow certain guidelines as to where to walk and where to stand. Same thing when we drive into a parking lot. It puts us in a certain trance. When people say, "Gosh, I drove to work today. I didn't remember getting here." Well, why not? You were in a trance. You get on an airplane. If that pilot isn't in a certain trance, prepared to fly that plane, you don't want to be in that cabin. You want him in that trance. So I hope that's not an oversimplification, but it can be that simple. Does require an element of belief. You know, people say, "Well, I don't believe I can do that. I don't believe," well, then they probably can't. But if they have the belief, well, maybe that's possible. Maybe I do have that kind of power, and I just need a professional to guide me, to help me move in that direction. Then it can seem magical, I must admit.
So in the process of someone coming to see you, or any hypnotherapist, there's that certain point where there's this kind of calming and relaxing, so that the monkey mind kind of gets subsided, settled down, and then there's that guide into the subconscious mind and the trance side of it. I've heard people call it's just a certain kind of a focus. You're just zoned in on that. And so the focus of the zoning in of that quote trance like is actually being inside that subconscious mind energy, which is then the coach helps you to explore it and bring things out. And am I interpreting that right or
Oh
saying that
yeah.
right?
No, you said a lot of things
Yeah,
that are right. One of the words you used was relaxation. It's certainly more than relaxation.
yeah,
But
of course.
I have to say, when a session is over, I bet 98% of the people I've worked with have made the statement, I don't know when I've been that relaxed.
Yeah, yeah,
So even if we didn't accomplish anything else, uh, they have the understanding of how good it feels to be relaxed, to really relax. But yeah, we shift the focus when one is really accessing the subconscious mind. There's an increased self awareness. They're not going to sleep. Um, Another word you use, control. I don't control anybody. And so the individual, I know it looks that way in some of the stage hypnosis. I don't fully understand some
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
And I just don't venture into that world because to me, the use of hypnotherapy is so meaningful. It's so deep that that's really where I want to put my focus. And when people have that realization that they have that kind of power within them, um, then my goal is to get them to a point where they don't need me anymore. Now, from a marketing standpoint, I'm going to have some marketing and business coaches say, "What are you talking about?" And but that's my goal. And the thing is, people are going to come back later. I got a call from a client the other day. She was one of my very first clients, so it was years ago, and she just has something that's triggering her. And, in using her words, she wanted a tune up.
Right.
So once people know how impactful it can be, how it can truly make a change, they're going to come back if they want to, if they need to. Um, but I'm not the kind of therapist that typically someone's going to stay with me for years. And I've talked to those people, who've been seeing a therapist for literally years and still haven't resolved a single issue. And often they don't really want to.
I think one of the points that I hear you bringing out is that, my conscious mind is an aspect of me, who I am. My subconscious mind is an aspect of me and who I am. And if that is me, there's no reason why I can't begin to be able to access me. So
Exactly.
the training and I think the experience that I hear you talking about gives people the not only the experience of it at that time, but it also gives them the examples of how they can guide themselves to find that connection with the subconscious mind and gather the information and answers that lie there. Right?
Right, right. Um, you pointed out that I've been focusing more on sports hypnosis recently.
Yeah.
And typically, the people I work with are already very, very high performers.
Hmm.
And what the reason they come to me is they know that they're functioning at a very high level, but they have a block. Often it's a situation where they're very good at practice and that it comes to competition and something happens and they freeze or they have some kind of a block and they just can't understand why does this happen? I'm in
Yeah.
practice and I do great. Same thing can apply to somebody taking very important tests. Talked to somebody the other day who is getting ready to take her, I've forgotten what test it is, but it was in the financial world. Those are really important tests. And she's done everything. She has worked with specialists and she's had special coaching and special training and so on. She's failed twice. Well, now she's scared to death to take it a third time. And that's another place where we can get rid of that fear. And the information's in there. There's no question about that. So we just shift the perception so that the person knows that they have the information. Doesn't make any difference if they're practicing, if they're just goofing around, or they're actually taking a test. But anyway, getting back to the sports, it's
Yeah.
usually a mental block that we can get rid of very, very quickly, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as I said, a great sports follower and used to play sports in high school and college. And, so my son played college basketball and championship level. And so you got a chance to see all the variations of what creates that hesitancy or the sometimes, yeah, right, fear of something that suddenly shows up.
Yeah.
And to have those coaches. There's so many coaches. I think LeBron James talking about he's got his mindset coach. He's got this. He's got all these different people to help him, be at his best excellent self. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just such a powerful thing. Karen,
Well, what? Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, go
Well, two people come to mind of very famous athletes, Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods.
Yep.
Both credit hypnotherapy for much of their success. A story that I have always enjoyed or enjoyed telling, I should say, the Chicago White Sox. And a lot of people they think, really? I mean, it's kind of a surprise. In 1983, the Chicago White Sox hired their own hypnotherapist to work with all of their players. Well, guess what? They made the playoffs for the first time in a quarter century.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't tell some story, it's pretty amazing what it can do.
Yeah. I mean, just so corporately now, the whole wellness industry, well-being industry, there's um, so much more awareness and acknowledgement of the need to take care of that part of the person, that part of the soul, which was that mental, spiritual, if you will, side of everything. So I mean, it's just so wonderful to see that happen. So Karen, I'm curious about what was it that in your various trainings and so on, what's one thing that's an example of something that as you began to tap into your subconscious mind that came out that helped you, that even revolutionized what was happening for you? Can you give us a personal example?
Oh gosh.
The reason why I'm asking is because it gives people hope and inspiration. Oh yeah, I've gone through that and I can see it. Yeah.
Sure. I appreciate that question. And I don't mean to avoid it, but I get so caught up in what my clients experience. Those are the stories that really stand
No,
out
that's
to me.
great.
And can I tell one of those instead?
Sure, yeah.
Because it's very recent. I had a woman come to me. Actually, it was her husband who referred her, and she was terrified to
Yeah.
fly. And so much so that she took tranquilizers. She would get physically ill just thinking about getting on a plane and taking a flight. Well, work required that she was going to have to take an 8-hour international flight. She was beside herself. We worked together for a few sessions, and I have to tell you that I talked to her husband after she had taken the flight to the other country and asked him, well, how did she do? And he said, well, I don't know. I asked her, how was the flight? And she said, it was fine. Just kind of shrugged her shoulders. And same thing coming back. And that was her story, and she's sticking to it. So, when I hear those kinds of stories, they're almost more amazing to me than anything I've experienced. I just take those examples and just love sharing them and what a difference they can make. I'm going to point out real quickly that I work mostly with adults. I've worked with a few kids, And recently worked with a little boy who's between 9 and 10, and have had some tremendous results there. And he had behavioral issues. And so I guess I like to throw that in there. I'm not switching my
Sure.
specialty by any means, but we can work with kids. And I'll tell you something, kids' subconscious mind is open almost all the time.
Sure.
We shut ours down. Kids, I mean, you just watch them play and you can see how much freer they are than we are. And so, success working with young people, kids, can be very, very fast and very impactful.
That you're bringing up something to me that I think is pretty powerful in this discussion, and that is the whole creativity side of the subconscious mind, the writer's block, the person that writes the verse to the song, but then they can't get to the rest of the song.
Mhm.
All this because kids that's a piece of it. They're just so creative, and they're just allowed. There's no intellect that's formed yet that says you can't do this, you can't do that. They just do it.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the subconscious mind and creativity.
Well, that is where change takes place, is in the imagination. And when we spend some time imagining what it will be like, let's say, to be a non-smoker, if you've been smoking for 30 years, when one can get into that subconscious trance of really feeling what it would be like to be a non-smoker, to be 30 pounds lighter, to get on a plane and be relaxed and calm and looking forward to the flight, to sit down at a test and just know that all the information is there, using the imagination to create that picture can be life changing, absolutely life changing. But we don't take the time to do that. It's very hard to do on our own. And that's why people call me to help them do that. And it really does make a difference, makes a difference to have a professional as your guide.
Beautiful. So as we begin to wrap up here, Karen,
Mhm.
what's one step that if somebody is feeling like maybe they're not quite ready to go see the coach or find a therapist, but they're beginning to get those inklings that they want some change, something needs to happen. What's one step that you think they could take towards making that change?
Well, I would like to think they would be open to at least a conversation with me.
Okay,
And my initial conversation with someone is complimentary. I'm not going to
sure.
charge anything for that. But just to have that conversation, and maybe prior to that, to make a list of their questions, their what would make them hesitate. Do they have some kind of a fear? Write them down so we can talk about them.
Okay.
So I guess that would be the first thing, so that when they make the decision or truly give it a lot of consideration, they have all the facts.
Right.
So I encourage, I welcome those conversations with people, and they can just email me directly at info@KarenRossNow.com. The reason it's Karen Ross Now is because KarenRoss.com was taken at the time. And I thought, what can I add that's real short, just to keep a website simple? And now came to my mind, and I thought, well, that's perfect, because I want people to know they can solve their issue, they can make their change right now, right now. So that worked out really well.
Yeah. Now, and I know a lot of people listening. I mean, a lot of times they want to just be in proximity with their coach. They want to go to the office, be live there. So if somebody is in another area, even in another area of the world, what would you suggest to them that they look for in finding a good hypnotherapist or coach that they can actually be in the physical live into person presence with? What would they do to start looking for that kind of person?
Okay. I'm glad you said that because I do want to make the note that I do all of my sessions on Zoom.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are surprised. You don't do that in person. Actually, most people really like being in Zoom because they can be where they're comfortable. A lot of people are so relaxed at the end, they want to take a short nap. And so they do, they lie down and take a nap. So I could work with people literally all over the world.
Right.
But I did have somebody just recently, they said, I want to work in person with somebody. I think the key is the connection you feel with that individual.
Okay.
You feel safe with that person. Do you feel like you can really tell that person what is your deepest fear? What is your concern? And you just know that they're going to understand. They're not going to criticize you or judge what you're experiencing. I think we all know what that connection feels like, and
Sure.
it's hard to put into words, but I think that's the first thing people should look for. And maybe they want to have a conversation with me first and then look for somebody.
Sure.
I'll help them determine what's going to be most important to them. If it's more important to be in person, I'll help them uh, figure out what to ask or what to look for, what to feel. Uh,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's great. So reiterate for us how that people can get in touch with you.
Oh, it's so simple. Just info at KarenRossNow.com.
There you go, folks. Info at KarenRossNow.com. And we'll make sure we put that in the comments, everybody, underneath the live video. And Karen, thank you so much for being a part of Empowered Soul Network. It's just a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I wish you continued success and growth with this group. You're doing great things, reaching the right people with great information.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. There you go, everybody. Power Soul Network. That's a wrap for today. Stay tuned. More great things coming the rest of the week. Got a meet and greet tonight, so you can go into the Facebook area and register or sign up. It's not a registration, just sign up. Let us know you plan to come. So lots of amazing things happening in the Power Soul Network. Karen, stick around for just a minute, and we'll do a wrap privately together. There you go, everybody. Have a great day.